I'd just like to have a look at some of the skills you might need if you're in an agency or in a brand and you want to draw a content marketing strategy together. What sort of skills might you need in that? Most large organisations, most large brands in Australia now very large brands employ between 11 and 20 people in content-related activities. Okay. Of course, for smaller organisations, you're probably going to end up having to do it all. So this is one of the things to be factored in. I've got to say it is time intensive. If you want to connect and be continuous, it is time intensive. Now, David, how about a few case studies just to put this in perspective?
Case study number one was an exercise that we went through with the business and industry development arm of the ACT government. They were transitioning their site due to the accessibility standards. That's probably familiar to many of you. But their site was pretty much around compliance, and what they wanted to engage in was really, yes, the compliance was important and they needed people to still be able to understand how many tables and chairs they could put in front of their cafe and all the rest of it. But for government, the key thing in business and industry development is to connect with the entrepreneurial community, because they're the job creators. They're the ones who are going to employ people. So they wanted to change the focus. And so we applied the content marketing methodology to their challenge. So strategy up front was again around, okay, let's move towards entrepreneurs. So let's clear objective, we wanted to engage with them. Understanding that entrepreneurial audience was really interesting as well, because when you start to look at entrepreneurs, they're not just a homogenous group who look like this. You segment them down, and we ended up with about seven segments. There were the early emerging entrepreneurs, and that was an interesting category in itself, in that, yes, it was the people who were leaving university with a good idea and all the gung-ho spirit of youth, but it was also people leaving the Defence Force with a package at the age of 50 who have had a great idea for the last 25 years and they want to now make it happen. But their audience needs and their research methods and the way the keywords that they use and where they get their information is quite different. So we looked at developing personas around that, and it was all the way from the beginning all the way through to the entrepreneurs who are looking to segment themselves. And we then started to look at the types of content that would need to be created, and we went through and created a whole heap of content relevant to those particular audiences. We put in place the editorial calendars and started publishing to these personas. and started to adjust and amend as we implemented how that was going. We put in place the measurement and evaluation, and I can tell you I ran into the team the other day and everyone is as happy as Larry because it's working. The traffic to their site has increased exponentially. They have a framework to which they're working. They've got numbers against which they're reporting, and everybody is happy. And I ran into their boss as well, and their boss was saying, this is great because at least we feel like we've got a roadmap through content marketing. The second example I'd like to move to is perhaps a slightly different idea, but it's really to introduce to you the notion of change that is happening in the world in terms of content. We've been involved in Canberra 100, and while we weren't able to get our hands on all of the content marketing levers, our job has been about communicating Canberra and what Canberra is about outside of Canberra. And so, as I say, we didn't quite get all of the levers, but we got a few of the levers, and one of the levers we got was actually the content itself. Now, the task for us was all about having people remix, reimagine, and re-experience their view of Canberra. Now, you've got to remember that we are notionally a Canberra PR company. But what we decided to do was have a look at this and think, okay, well, what can we do? We've got very skillful production people who now work as part of our team. And we thought, okay, let's create some content that's going to help us to communicate the difference of Canberra, the richness of Canberra to an audience outside of Canberra. Yes, we can use the Centenary platforms. Yes, we can use the content group platforms, the ACT government platforms. We can distribute the links out through social media. But we took it one step further and have negotiated with News Limited to put this piece of content or this series of content on their platforms all around Australia. So the Herald Sun, the Adelaide Advertiser, the Courier Mail. So in terms of this, the solution again was to engage with one of the News Limited journalists to tell a story about Canberra that we think will be valuable. So take a look at this. So, strategy, link to objective, link to a piece of content, link to a platform. Hasn't launched yet, mind you, but we're very hopeful that when it does launch, it's going to attract an audience. We're going to be able to measure how effective it's been, and we're going to be able to continue to tell stories and move people with content. Our original objective is about enriching people's notion of what Canberra's about. That is going to be a 6-part series. We're also doing another series with the Canberra Times. Now, this is a Canberra PR company who's going into joint productions with major national media players. There's no rules. The rules are that there are no rules. And if you've got a good idea, you can create content, publish content, hopefully move people and achieve your aims. So there you go. Content marketing. It is the future. It will be where we will be spending a lot of our time and effort and energy in our communication, because the God of technology has provided us with this utility, and I hope that that methodology will help you to piece through some of the process that you need to take to become effective.